Welcome, my name is Ryan Jensen. Today we're going to be painting a loose painterly figure on the beach. Why is painting a figure so difficult? It's something we all want to know how to do. Painting a figure is difficult because we're trying to paint the figure. What we need to do is stop looking at it as a figure, merely think of it as shapes, colors, and values. That's what today's video is going to be all about. So one of the very most important things I'm going to keep discussing throughout this whole video is passion, brushwork, energy, heart. We need to have heart in our paintings. Our brushwork is a mere extension of how we feel about what we're painting. We're not photographers here, we are painters. And painters paint with energy. They paint with life. They paint how they feel about the subject. Now, it's very important to understand all the principles of painting, learn from the masters. But your voice as an artist is one of the most important things you're going to ever do. To find that voice is the difficult part. Now, today we're going to be talking about color, design, composition, and all the other little specifics on edge work. But remember this, the second we start getting scared, the second we start getting fearful, understand it. Understand that that's the negative, okay? We're thinking positive. We need to do certain things to stay positive during our painting. We're listening to music, we're dancing. Right when we understand that that negative energy is coming in and infecting our space, oh, that's the negative energy. What we need to do is dance. Have a good time. Do some push-ups, do some jumping jacks, jump off the wall, go chase a dinosaur. I don't care. But don't paint with the negative energy because that's going to show directly through to everyone who looks at your art. Now, to be honest with you, I'm not the best painter in the world. I don't even know why I'm here. But what I have learned how to do, is paint with conviction. Paint from my heart. Paint like my life depends on it, because it does. I decided to be a full-time painter, and that's a scary thing. The fear eats away at me at night. The fear scares the hell out of me that I'm not going to make it. What if I don't sell paintings? It doesn't matter. I love my subject. I love light. Now, without that, we're almost trying to paint to people's needs. No, you paint to your need. You find out what you like, what speaks to you, and you paint to figure out why. I love this boat. I love this figure. I love the way this light is hitting the dumpsters in the back of this alley. Why? It's a big question I'm always trying to ask. What is the point of painting? What is the point of what we're doing here? The point is to paint something from your heart and show the world, show everybody how you feel about it. Because that's the essence of being. It's the sole origin of consciousness, and it is gratitude. So let's talk about my materials. Gamsol, some linseed oil, the primary colors. We're not dipping into any crazy colors yet. Pencil, sketch pad, paintbrushes, and right here, we're working on just a hard panel. Artist loft. We want to keep this thing basic today. Make sure we drive home the point of principles over a process. We're going to learn these principles, and I'm going to keep this really, really, really basic for you. Design and composition. A wonderful drawing is the foundation of any painting. What we need to do is be able to draw if we're going to paint well, for the most part. Today, we need to nail the design. When we're painting things like still lifes, a figure on the beach, a landscape, being able to travel the eye throughout the painting is very important. I'm going to show you how to do that. Now today, I'm painting my daughter Avery. Now again, Avery needs to stop being Avery. She needs to stop being a person. She's now just a mere composition of shapes, right? Okay, check. Avery is just on the beach right here. That's just Avery. There's nothing else in the background. A great painter can paint what he sees. An amazing, phenomenal painter can paint what he can't see. So we're going to add some things in the background and have a little fun with it. Primary focal point, secondary, and tertiary. So in this scene here, the gesture I like of Avery is standing on dry sand. But in this photo, there's a reflection I like. So we're going to add the two together in one painting, and I'm going to direct this scene like a director of a movie. As the painter, you are the director. This is your scene, your movie, your painting. Now, in terms of composition, we want that focal point to be the main star. That is our money, okay? Avery's the money. We want them to see Avery. Pretty simple. In any painting, in a landscape, still life, whatever, we need a primary area of interest. It's really going to make that painting sing. Plus, it takes the focus off anything else in the painting and allows you to have soft edges everywhere. Edges are going to be something we talk about today, too. So, what I'm liking about this scene, what I'm really, really digging, is the hat. And the cute little girl in her pink bathing suit, holding a really, really awkwardly big fishing pole. And then it's almost as if, what if a big fish were to pull on that rod right now? Would it pull the rod out of her hand completely? Would it pull her in? I don't know. But it's telling a story. But in a way, in this photo, she's looking down at the sand, being curious. In this one, she looks rather intent, like she's trying to catch a fish. I love the shadow. I love the light. But the design for this one right here, I like it. She's not really quite in the center. I don't need to add or redesign her much or where she's placed in the image that much. But I might want to put a little something in the background right here. A boat. I might want to put a bird up here. I could put a crab or a seagull right here. So let's have some fun. And let's dig into this design here real quick. Never hurts to sketch this thing out first, right? So, when it comes to drawing, I'm holding the pencil like this. Straight arm. I'm looking at my image. I almost don't even need to look at the paper. I'm feeling it out. Okay, that will be about where the hand is. Here's the bottom foot. Here's the hat. And I'm just taking the edge off. I'm just being a kid with it. I watch her paint every day. She loves to paint. She's not worried about how good her product is. She's merely curious and having fun. And I learn from a 4-year-old girl on how to paint daily. So let's make sure we get this leg here. But that's about where it's going to be. Light under the hat. Fishing pole. Now again, we're just really staying loose with it and catching the areas of light, shadow, all at once. That's about where it's going to be right there. Now, all these lines that don't really matter too much, they don't matter. And they add to moving the eye around the painting. That's what we want. Point line mass, something I'm going to talk about in a little bit, but this would be a line. This would be a point within a mass up there. This helps guide and travel the eye throughout the painting and keep it spontaneous and fun. It's a little secret you're going to really pick up on today. I want you to get this. Don't be afraid of these lines. And we almost get these lines and these points by just the process of the work. It's once we slow down. Okay, now, from right here, hat, I can start drawing this a little more accurately. What I like to do is draw massive shapes in first, and then come in and draw more accurately, carve out negative space. But for drawing, okay, I can feel how that's going to work. A little cute foot. rod hitting the ground right there. And, okay. Drawing done. Now, maybe I noticed I had a little trouble painting accurately on a leg. Let's talk about a leg real quick and just how to think of a leg. Legs, arms, extremities, all very difficult things to paint. So, when we're painting a leg, think an S. I just painted a really long curvy line like this. But a foot, a leg, a kneecap, done. I'm going to do that one more time. Curvy S, leg, foot, kneecap, leg. Pretty simple. A leg has such a graceful curve, but we want to definitely pick up on that. An arm, whew, again. An arm, okay? Hardly look at this. Don't start going like this. Don't do this. Paint from your heart. Hold it loose. Okay, here would be the fishing pole right here. Arm. We want to practice drawing in our anatomy drawing classes. Hundreds of sketches of people like this. And eventually we become muscle memory and we just know how to paint these things and draw. So now that I'm getting to know the figure, I'm getting to know the scene, right? Honestly, I would already be painting. I tend to just jump into paintings very quickly. I rarely actually draw them. But that's not to say I didn't have thousands and thousands of hours as a kid, a young adult, and then finally one day I would be a painter. I would just draw. I'd obsessively draw in classroom when I'm supposed to be paying attention to the teacher. I had a compulsive inability to not. I would always be drawing on my homework. I struggled in school, but I felt like I could always do okay if I just impressed the teacher with portraits of them and surprise them. And it was just, I drew a lot. And remember, it's the awkward elephant in the room if you can't draw. Color and design and all these things, they're not as important as your drawing foundation. Your drawing foundation is the foundation of your painting. It's going to make it work or not. So, here we go. So we search. Now this time, I'm not going to pick up the pencil. I'm thinking about it in terms of shapes, where certain lines and angularities meet up. And notice that all the unimportant lines, they don't matter. They're just adding to the spontaneity of what we're doing. Light and shadow. Okay. Let's step back from what you did. Step back here. And we're ready to paint. So let's begin. Here we have this white canvas. White canvases are pretty intimidating. White's the absence of color. Why not just mess it up first? So when I'm in my studio and I'm working on a commission, or I have a lot of pressure on me, and well, let's just look at how not to paint. Okay. We don't want to do this. We don't want to do this. Okay, what we want to do is grab the biggest brush possible and take full charge of our canvas. Nice wet brush. Let's mix up some orange. Let's just tone this whole thing and make it not white. Let's make sounds with it. Let's let it drip. let's feel the rhythm. Usually I might have some music playing. I'm not thinking hard right now. I'm just kind of stepping into my element as an artist. Now, great artists can pull off amazing paintings on white surfaces. But for the most part, I like to just tone my canvas up. Try different colors for an underpainting. Might even go with a bigger brush than this. I'm just going to let those drips fall. And while it's still wet, I'm just going to dive right in. While these things, I'm going to let it drip a little more. Okay? These drips are going to come down and we're just getting it all wet. Now, right here, I might play with composition and design. And with some somewhat dark, I'm going to start mapping it out. Where's the bottom of this hat area? Right here where the eye's really going to look to where this face is. So let's have that be right about here. And the bottom of that bottom foot right there. Right about here. Now I'm trying to imagine that. That's going to reserve us a bunch of space up here. So say we just got a figure painting right here. So that's what it's going to look like for the most part. So what I don't want to do is have this foot too far down here. I want to. So right now I'm just mapping this thing out, making sure. Yeah, I like that the brim of the hat is right there. So this is my anchor point. This is the point where I'm going to develop the whole painting off of. Just a touch higher. I'm playing with all the darks now. This suddenly stops becoming a figure, and it's just areas of light and dark, shadow and light. Shadow. At any moment, I can just wipe this down. It's complete freedom. Here's where the rod's going to be. Maybe it's not quite right. So we just take full control. Make a little point line mass. Can't stress this enough. This really helps take the edge off the trying to make a perfect painting. If we're trying to make a perfect painting, we're trying to be a photographer. Don't do that. Right there. There. Shadow. Good. So we just shifted this dark area of the bottom area of the hat. Her face is going to be right here. Top of the hat. Bill. I like that design. Just off center. And we're allowed to put this one in the center. Typically there's a rule of not putting things in the center of a painting, but it's pretty centralized. We're just going to put her right in the middle because it's about her. We're working on a tall canvas. Still going to leave us a little room to put a boat out here. Rod. Cool. Now that I put some life onto this canvas, I'm going to step back, kind of view what I just did. Now you as the viewer, you might not be able to see exactly what's going on here. That's okay. But for the most part, you can kind of start to see what a bright white hat is going to look like right there. What the light happening on this leg is going to look like right here. And the light on that arm, halfway up between the leg and the hat, right here. This arm, right there. A figure starts to appear. Good. We've made a painting about a girl fishing. Now, I like to let the painting speak to me. I don't let the universe participate in a way where all that stuff I did in the beginning, the drips, the expression, I'll let that marinate for a second. I'm going to look at what I did, and this is very important. I don't see a lot of painters doing this. But right now, during this stage, I'm trying to identify the problems before they occur, design problems, not color problems yet, but drawing foundational problems. And I'm really looking at, okay, well, here's my subject, the most important part, my shapes. Gotta get these shapes right. So let's talk about these shapes. So this hat, let's look at the bottom of this hat right here. Now if that hat were to go all the way around, it would make almost a perfect circle. So I'm identifying this as, okay, there's a circle shape. I made it a little more of a circle now. Now there's a circle, half of a circle, and this arm, well, if we were to cut this circle in half, if there was a big circle right here in that circle, there would be the middle of the circle, would be the arm, middle of the circle, arm. Okay, this arm needs to come over just a touch. Little shoulder muscle on there, okay. Now, is it high enough? We've dealt with this angularity, with the hat in the circle. Let's think of it in terms of aligning this angularity up in another way. So this little circle on the top of the hat, now a completely different circle. This is how I think. This is how I see as a painter. This connects right with his arm going up into that small circle, the very top of the hat. We're not imagining a circle anymore. It's just going straight up. So this arm better go straight up into that circle. Good, done. A step back. It's already starting to read pretty well. Now, at any moment, I could just have a little bit of fun. I want to have fun. I'm going to put a little bit of sky up there just for fun. Okay. That's done. We'll go right back into the drawing phase. So this arm, hand, fishing rod. Okay. So while this painting is still wet, we're actually allowed to use our paper towel here. And I'm going to paint the light that's happening on her left wrist. I'm going to try to get this right the first time here. Right, it's going to be about right there. Now how I'm lining that up is her shoulder and this arm go right to here. So bam, that's where it is. Her tummy right here. Her tummy should line up with a graceful curvature line of her chin right there. Ooh, I've identified a problem. It doesn't in my painting. Do I need to bring the head forward or the tummy back? I need to bring the tummy back. It's hard to see the mistakes when you're up close, but again, it's starting to read. This little mistake, it almost looks like a nose, and that's kind of exactly where that nose needs to go. But we're just thinking in broad terms here. Okay, let's get, so if this is light on this hind quarter back here, we're putting some there's the bathing suit. And why this works so well, we're painting light over dark right now. We're carving out the light with our paper towel. Shadow. So we've got to get this rod, this fishing pole is truth. Where it's going to be, she's going to be holding it in her hands. It's very important we get this rod right. So I might do something like just take my little skinny tip brush here. really love these type of brushes. Quickie, wispy little strokes. So I'm just going to get a feel for where this is. Now, what I want to know where to put this rod, here's where a lot of artists will mess up. We want to get this right now. And so it's about 2 full head spaces over. Because where that rod goes is exactly where her hand's going to go. So it's 1 head, 2 head, rod. Simple as that. That's how I make a measurement when I'm out there plein air painting. I'm not working on a grid or a graph or anything like that. Like, it's quick. Yeah. And when I'm doing this right, I should find that all the other angularities match up as well. Like this rod coming down, it should go right about to where it is matching, where it matches the shin, goes right into the ankle. Okay, well, right here, this rod needs to go right into the ankle. In between both of these measurements, I'll get it right. Foot needs to go right there. Perfect. Now let's just remind ourselves that that's the foot and carve that out a little more. We haven't got into bold expressive painting yet. We are just focusing on this core drawing foundation. Feet are hard, so we're not painting feet. We're just painting little triangles and rectangles that are in the shapes. Real easy to start wanting to paint kneecaps and knuckles and fingernails and all this stuff, but we don't. We just massive block in. Okay. So I'm really going to take this moment to just study the subject. I'm going to stare at it. I'm just going to look at it and ingrain it in my brain what it's doing. Okay, is the back of the head here, does it line up with where this hip flexor muscle would be right there if I went straight up and down? I'm measuring in terms of horizontally and vertically. The front of the nose, does it meet, there was a line right here, does it meet the front of this toe if it went straight up and down? Front of the nose, toe. Somewhere between the two is the right answer. So maybe bring this foot just back. Now by the end of this process, it doesn't look like I was this careful, right? Well, that's what we're about to, I'm actually going to measure that straight up and down. Yeah, they're about the same. Foot maybe just a little bit in front. So toe goes right there. Now, it's completely okay to take this and turn it upside down, turn your painting upside down and measure that way too. When we're in the studio, it's completely fine. It's a great way to just stop seeing it as it is, as a person, and now we're looking at it as just raw shapes. It's a great exercise. Okay. So, elbow. I'm thinking elbow to like what lines up here. So this kneecap is going to touch this leg back here, knee, leg back here, boom. So now I'm going to think in terms of negative space right now. This area right here, this negative space in between the rod and your legs and our elbow, I'm actually going to look at that as a shape. So I'm going to turn it sideways and say, hey, this looks like one of those Blackbird jets, those I'm going to look at this and I'm going to carve that out real quick. You know those stealth bombers or whatever they call them? Bingo. So before I was thinking just positive shapes, then I solved a problem that was difficult by carving out negative space. And that fixed that problem. It was weird. I couldn't figure out why. And when it's weird and you can't figure out why, it's good to think about negative shapes. Now we're cooking right along. Why not do a little color? So, I'm liking it so far. Just because we want to push ourselves, just because we don't want to follow a specific process, we want to follow principles, and we want to start carving out negative space with color. This isn't perfectly drawn in yet. We're going to break an edge here. Doesn't matter, right? So let's go with some sky. I'm going to mix some ultramarine blue with white. And since I'm working from a photo, of course, naturally I think, oh, sky's blue, so I'm just going to start mixing blue. But when I really look at sky and atmosphere that's happening within the earth and that sky, there's a certain level of air clarity that might not be, so it's not exact, so it's okay to touch it into your gray pile, touch it into that blue. We just don't want raw color, super high and punchy in hue. So we almost want kind of like a gray blue up in there. We're going to have plenty of opportunity later to punch it up with color in the right places. But let's carve out this area right in the back of that hat. Let's leave certain areas showing through. So I'm not just painting it all in one area. Okay, we're going to have a mountain right here. Great. Done. I'm done with the sky for now. And this is going to help me walk it in slowly in terms of color and start comparing values. We don't just paint color without comparing it to something. Color and value only exist in contrast. Everything in life exists in contrast. So we must not judge it in isolation. When we judge a color in isolation, the color doesn't exist. Very tricky to do it that way. All right, so now we're going to go. The goal is here to leave certain areas of this showing through. Okay, we have a nice warm orange here for the underpainting, and now we want to go straight to its complement, the blue. I'm really liking this. I'm liking this pop of this hat. That's going to be some money strokes we're going to be able to do later, but for now we get to completely leave that because that's working. And we want to get all the darks down first now, so let's just knock out these areas that are the darkest in my painting, because we can always paint light over dark. You ever buy a black car or a black pair of tennis shoes? Well, those tend to show up real dirty real quick. You got to keep those clean all the time because the specks of white, the dust, the water spots, they show up on a black car really easy. On a white car, no, because we paint light over dark because that shows up the best. All right, so dark. Let's get all these darks down. We haven't even blocked this thing yet. We've just worked on drawing. All right, so I'm going to kind of mix up a violet patch here, ultramarine blue and alizarin crimson. So that's a nice punchy violet. And with that violet, it's real dark right there. We don't need to go that dark. Let's put a little orange in there. So now it's just a dark. It's not just a purple. Okay, when I blur my eyes now, this is what I look like when I look at my subject. I look like a weirdo. I'm just looking at it like this. I'm completely forgetting, okay, that's a shadow. I'm just looking at it as just this maze of dark and lights. And my eyes are going right there to the shadow. I'm painting that shadow. Having fun with it. Okay, where did this raw go? This raw was right here. I'm gonna, wow. Dark, 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 dark. I'm stepping back. Good. Okay. That perhaps might be too dark for the end result. And if this was from life, I noticed a problem right before it started. So with this painting right here, we have two amazing images. I like the water in this one, but I like the gesture in this one. And I get to direct this scene, so I'm going to take the water from this one and put it in this one. I almost screwed it up. I almost painted the dark sand. But I like that blue violet reflection in the shadow and the reflection. So we got to remember that. Let's handle that right now. Let's just make this a blue shadow now. It don't matter. I can mess it up for days. I can put stuff over here. I can take this and go like this with it. Don't hold your painting too dear. This is going to reinforce you to paint bolder in the future of this piece here. Okay. So, there we go. So now, let's paint some water back there in the background. Now, what's the difference between this sky and this water? For now, nothing. We're just going to paint it in there. Where's the mountain, though? Where's the horizon line? For this painting, it's right there between her hat. I get to decide right now, do I want to move it down? Do I want to bring her up above the horizon line a little bit more? Yes. So I'm going to make it right about here. When I'm outdoors painting, when I'm in the studio, whenever, I always think it's more interesting if I get my perspective on my subject a little lower. So that's what I just did essentially, is make it a little bit lower. Let's let her head rise up above that horizon line. Really make it catch. What do I mean by catch? I mean catch the eye. We see most photographers out there getting low. They're getting low because that's interesting. Okay, here's the mountain back there. So anytime in a painting where I can have the eye wrap around the piece, any excuse I have to put brushstrokes this way, because we read from left to right. And that's usually the way we view things too. So we want to enter the painting and come back around. This one, usually a light post or something pointing us back this way, is a great thing to do. But for this, we don't really have that. So you can always reinforce brushstrokes that go this way. Just think of circular motion here. Now this wet underpainting is now dulling out the high view in the hue in our color, which is great. Welcome. My name is Ryan Jensen. Today we're going to be painting a loose painterly figure on the beach. Why is painting a figure so difficult? It's something we all want to know how to do. Painting a figure is difficult because we're trying to paint the figure. What we need to do is stop looking at it as a figure, merely think of it as shapes, colors, and values. That's what today's video is going to be all about. So one of the very most important things I'm going to keep discussing throughout this whole video is passion, brushwork, energy, heart. We need to have heart in our paintings. It's very important to understand all the principles of painting, learn from the masters. But your voice as an artist, one of the most important things you can ever do. To find that voice is the difficult part. Now, today we're going to be talking about color, design, composition, and all the other little specifics on edge work. Remember this, the second we start getting scared, the second we start getting fearful, understand it. Understand that that's the negative, okay? We're thinking positive. We need to do certain things to stay positive during our painting. We're listening to music, we're dancing. Right when we understand that that negative energy is coming in and infecting our space, oh, that's negative energy. What we need to do is dance. Have a good time. Do some push-ups, do some jumping jacks, jump off the wall, go chase a dinosaur, I don't care. But don't paint with the negative energy, because that's going to show directly through to everyone who looks at your art. You find out what you like, what speaks to you, and you paint to figure out why. I love this boat. I love this figure. I love the way this light is hitting these dumpsters in the back of this alley. Why? Then we paint. My name is Ryan Jensen. Grew up in Northern California my whole life, Sonoma. Parents were both painters. My dad was an oil painter, my mom a graphic designer. They met and had me. I'm an only child. So I was really just living around art my whole life. We never really had a lot, but we had enough. I got to watch the struggle. Yeah, being an artist is a tough road. I got to witness that firsthand. I'd do things like join the Marine Corps for 8 years, and then I would, one day when my father passed, decide to pick up his brushes and paint full time, burn all bridges behind me. Now, it wasn't until my father passed, and I really had a lot of respect for my dad as an artist. He taught me so much, taught me everything I knew. I remember we'd just be on like these drives to school. My dad he was an illustrator way back when, and be working with an airbrush in the studio all night. He would have just paint on his hands. You could just tell he was up all night, and he'd drive me to school, and he'd be so in his art brain, he would just be talking about light and just giving me little tips about art, you know. And that was every day. If I had a homework assignment, my dad would be helping me. My mom would be helping me, and I was just learning. Color always scared me, but I would always be drawing. I would always be having my sketchbook. I compulsively sketched in class, and 10,000 hours, yeah, far past that drawing. Struggled in school my whole life, but I always felt like I could win the teacher over and do okay in the class if I did a portrait of the teacher that was good, and like I could impress her in some way. So like I did that a lot every single class, and of course in art class I always got an A. Math, English, no. But there's something interesting about diving fully into what I'm passionate about, being an artist. That scared me more than joining the Marines and the infantry, going to Iraq and Afghanistan twice, combat deployments. Yeah, 1 to Iraq, 2 to Afghanistan. Being an artist, that's scary. Like, so for anyone being an artist out there, full time, going for it. I mean, this is your #1 source of income. Got a lot of respect for you, because there's no guaranteed paycheck, and I really hope that my goal for this video was to really be myself and show you that painting is really hard. It's really hard for everybody, and I understand how hard it is to, if you were full time and you're waiting on that paycheck to come to sell a painting. That's scary, but scary is good. Difficult is good. Easy is not what we want as artists. We want to be all in. And if it's anything I really want to get across today, is just understand that if you are all in, whether it's painting, on a deployment in Iraq, on a whatever endeavor you pick, just that all in, burn all bridges behind you attitude is going to increase your success. It's going to elevate your state of being and your state of consciousness, and you are going to perform. That's how it is. So just remember that. It starts at you. It starts at here. With who you are and your intention, your vision, your inner vision of what you want. If it excites you, it's directly aligned with your purpose. And listen to it. If you want to paint, and don't just paint. Be an artist all the time. Search, do the work. Stay up till 2 in the morning watching Monet painting slideshows like me, obsessing. And eventually, day by day, every day's practice, you're going to get a little bit better every day. And every day is just that drop in the bucket. And one day, you're going to think something's wrong. You're going to be like, what? Me? They're going to invite you to do a video for Streamline Publishing, and it's going to be your turn to like teach people. And so I just really, really wanted to get that across, that your heart, paint with your heart. Never forget that. Listen to your inner voice. It's telling you something. So I remember, very young, one of my first like real strong memories was cutting my finger. You can really see this S-shaped scar on my pointer finger. And I cut myself on an X-Acto knife. My parents were hunched over the drawing board, this big drafting board in the studio, in our small little house. And they were working very hard. I was able to sneak in there, open the drawer, get the X-Acto knife, and go fight make-believe dragons in the hallway. And I don't remember this part, but apparently my mom just tracked this blood trail, and she found me in the bathroom, big puddle of blood, and I said, it's cuts up. I was trying not to cry. And I remember the little thing on my hand, but that was just the seriousness of art. I remember how serious art was, the X-Acto knives, all this equipment, these little angle measurement things, and just the drafting board, the smell of a studio brings me back there. So it just ingrained in my blood. And just the way the paint looked on my dad's hands, and just that seriousness. And being an artist isn't easy. I saw that firsthand, how hard you have to work. My parents were really good. They were both doing phenomenal work. My mom was a graphic designer doing these amazing designs for the covers of magazines in Silicon Valley. My dad was an illustrator, and he'd eventually go to do computer war games, do the artwork for them. He was the lead artist. And then once the PlayStation came out, once the PlayStation and Xbox came out, the computer games just went down the tank. And my dad fell back on his oil painting, and something he hadn't done in a long time. And it's just like riding a bike. He was just so good right away, and became successful quickly in Sonoma, California. And it was living under these amazing artists. I always felt that like very less than I would never be good. My dad was always showing me what I did wrong. He was encouraged, and they were encouraging. They were very beneficial, but I could tell they just didn't want me to be an artist because they know how hard it was. And it wasn't until my dad passed away 5 years ago that I would pick up those brushes. And I always feel like my dad's just right there with me. I'm channeling him when I paint. I'm channeling all things hard in my life. I'm channeling that cut on the X-Acto knife. All that just unfulfilled potential. And trying to please my dad, trying to please, like, book report. I didn't read the book. I didn't, but I could do an amazing back panel for this book report. And I can, like, I'll get an A on that thing for that alone. So art has really helped me throughout my whole schooling, just become more confident in what I'm good at. And I could always be like, well, I got this on the art side of things. No, so I didn't start working with color. I didn't start painting at all, really. I mean, I went with my dad a couple times out in plein air and actually did some kind of good work. And I would later find out, after my dad passed away, that my dad said to my mom, she told me this, she said that Ryan could be one of the best artists around if he just had that work ethic and that drive and that focus. Being a young kid, I didn't have any focus, and I'm more interested in all this stuff kids are interested in. I see now a lot of people a lot of young kids out there with that just dedicated focus and precision. Not me, but it wasn't until I was 31 years old when I went to school, and I went back to school on the GI Bill after the Marine Corps, after I got out, married, 2 kids at this time, and then I went back to school. I majored in business. I was thinking I needed to major in business, and they put me in an art class with one of my electives was painting. And I was like, cool, let's see what I'll love that. Went in there, and here I was in this statistics class, struggling. Business class was okay. This astronomy class that was just mind-blowingly amazing. Showed me how small I was compared to it all, and how just gave me perspective in that astronomy class. Here I am, this little tiny speck of dust, and why not go paint? Because I'm doing an amazing in this painting class, and all these other classes that don't really interest me, but I feel like I should do them because that's what society, that's what the system is wanting me to do, is go do these things. But I just want to paint. And eventually, day after day going to that class, I was like, what are we doing here? I gotta be a little brave with my life. I gotta take charge of my life. I gotta paint. Dad passed away, and I just remember that after the funeral, I walked in there, I picked up that brush, and I just felt it. I just felt that feeling of holding that brush, and I just knew, I might not even make it as an artist, but I knew that I would get to my end of my life one day, and I would realize how horrible the feeling of unfulfilled potential would be. And all the time I had spent drawing and being around art wouldn't even come close to now I have to start over, learning a new trade. No, I'm going to use all those hours, all that skill, all that knowledge, and apply that to this painting class. And eventually, changing over to that mindset, that decision, with that intention, I would just drop out of school completely and go plein air paint every day. And I've never been so successful at anything else in my whole entire life. So pain tolerance is going to be huge, getting through all the bad paintings. They're only bad paintings, right, to me. And if I think it's a bad painting, well, I certainly like it when I love a painting, but where my growth comes from is when I hate a painting and someone else loves it. I'm like, oh, well, aren't I just a selfish creature? Maybe other people's tastes matter too, right? So I learned quickly to stop talking bad about my work, do the painting. Sometimes there's real awkward angularities and just design problems that are just, even if they like the work, but for the most part, it's the pure intention of standing on the earth, finding something that moves you, that speaks to me, and painting it to figure out why. Why is this so beautiful? What is this? And that's pure humility, pure grace, pure gratitude, and just pure connection. And it's the divine order of consciousness when you are painting from plein air and from life. Photos, I don't understand the point of painting from a photo. It doesn't do it from me. To be honest, I struggled with this shoot, painting from the photo. But plein air painting, plein air is just a word. When you're sitting there and you are in direct, complete flow state, you're just a vessel, I get emotional talking about it. I love it so much. It's in my blood. It's who I am. I'm supposed to paint. This is all I know. That's a good question. So I feel like there's a purpose. Each human, you are existing here on this planet, in this universe, in this giant room called planet Earth. You have a purpose. Now you're going to suffer. You're going to go through pain if this purpose isn't fulfilled. Anxiety, angst, depression, these disorders, all this stuff, alcoholism, drug addiction, all this crap But once you get on your purpose, and you do it very well, you work very hard at it, you become successful. And that's not to say success is great. Success is a tricky one, because once you get a little successful with something, you start getting a little ego going, you start getting confident, and growth stops. So once you struggle, go through some pain. I've had to go through plenty of pain before I was an artist, while I was an artist. The pain is the soul origin. The pain is the good stuff, because regret is your guideline. And all of us here on this earth, we're not going to know it all, and the reasons for everything and how far the universe goes, all this crap. We're not going to know it. That's okay. That's humility. We got to understand that. And for art, it's the same way. Every painting, there could be something better with it. What interests me most is those paintings where I didn't really try. They are the perfect ones. But oddly enough, when I do them, I don't like them very much afterwards, because they're not the way I wanted them. And my relationship with my higher power, God, just connection with the universe and the divine order of things, I am just participating. I am just there. There's something else going on. I'm being very real with you. All of a sudden, that painting that I hated so much wins an award and does all these things, and I'm like, oh, who the hell am I? What am I? My opinion doesn't matter very much. All that mattered was that I did that painting. Having a mentor, having that inspiration, that artist who you respect their work so much. I had to find one of those. Easily found one up there in Northern California. Now I'm a painter. Now the back of my truck is looking like a graveyard of paint tubes, and I'm really, really charged about painting at this point. I found an artist named Jim McVicker. Jim McVicker, I reached out to him, and I found his work on Google. I was Googling landscapes from Northern California. It was all like Jim McVicker's work. Beautiful art, beautiful paintings he does. And I was silly with it. I just thought that if I could just get his attention, get that guy's respect, have him answer some questions, I'd be good. And here we are, close to 5 years later now, and now we're very good friends. We do events together, and I go over to his house. We do dueling self-portraits with each other in the studio, and yeah, I get stuck a lot. I get stumped with something I don't know how to handle, whether it's something with sales, something with marketing, something with this, and obviously painting and color. And Jim McVicker is one of the best human beings on the face of this earth. He's never too busy. He's just kind and generous and completely just authentic and from the heart. And so my dad passed, didn't have a dad, so in a way I looked at Jim McVicker as just more than a mentor, man. It's like my dad in the art. He took that place, and I just respect his work and who he is so much. So thank you, Jim. That's a good question. That's a really good question. That's going to get me emotional too. Here's why. In a painting, there's contrast. For me, I love paintings with contrast. And in any great painting, there's contrast, and both in life, there should be contrast too. In your life, I believe, in my life, there needs to be contrast. So I have painting. Well, painting is one thing, but it's not everything. And to help my painting become better, I need to have something completely opposite, something that contrasts against paintings. So I realized this. I was taking my painting just a little too seriously, because I start really focusing on that 12 by 16 inch panel, which isn't reality. So I started focusing on myself more and my health. I lost 71 pounds. I worked with a life coach, a mentor for that. can't stress how important having a mentor is. If you want to get good at something, seek who you respect and who has those results and go get that from them at all costs. So I did that, lost 71 pounds, and now, months later, excelled at that program and became a fitness coach too. So now I'm an online fitness coach. So every morning I'm up no later than 3 in the morning, and I train with my team at 4 sharp every morning. And I take their accountability. Nothing to do with painting. Now, this is also my purpose. I was called to do this. Don't have any choice. And maybe it confuses people on my audience on Instagram or this and that. It doesn't matter. People need help. Because I had to go through some pain, some serious pain. And that pain was alcoholism, addiction. It was just horrible. Like I 100% disabled from PTSD from combat in Afghanistan, and just watching Marines, you know, just unresolved just issues that were adding up, loss of sleep. I'd go to painting. Still not the answer. A nice thing to do, part of my purpose there, but what I had to do was focus on me from the inside out, work on me, work on just like resentments, work on just obviously the alcohol, to completely sober now. So it wasn't until I realized service of my people, who are my people, and doing the work for me allows it so I can show up for them. And so when I'm helping someone else, through their pain, because we all got pain. In life, pain is going to happen to it, and it's so delusional to believe that pain isn't going to come our way. Problems are going to persist. They're just going to keep coming. So having that I train every day for like the unknown. Like someone's going to have, oh, I've got a problem, got this. Let's smash this out. Oh, got this. And so with all this, I realize, oh, that's a beautiful light happening in that pasture. I'm going to go paint. And I completely changed my mindset to go painting in this field. And I'm not too concerned about style. I've already felt the heaviness of life. Combat is very real. I've been to the edge, you know, and painting, am I seriously worried about my style? That's a minuscule problem. I'm worried about getting passionate about my subject and actually connecting with the light. And it's all about the light. Everything we do is about light. There's a big metaphor here for the darkness, and light doesn't exist without the darkness. I was in a very dark place in my life. Light, it's all the center of everything, the center of our solar system. This big ball of nitrogen and hydrogen, just the light, man. Like, without the light, there is no life. I honor that light by painting it. When I am very, very connected, non-judgmental, I don't care, I am so blessed, I am so high vibe because I just helped all these people overcome this crap that they're going through. And we realize that like a style and what other people think about our work, it matters because we need sales, but like what really matters is how I feel about that subject. And if I can just channel that and paint that in a way where it's authentic and it's just me, it shouldn't matter. And that's how you make great art, because you are so connected and so in flow state where of course you're going to sell it. That's going to be secondary. If you are in love with the process of your exercise routine, of course you're going to get the results you want. But when you fall in love with this idea, this end result, how are we going to ever get there if we're not falling in love with that process? So yes, I do get subconscious about my style sometimes. What am I doing? Well, this, and this, all the time. But I understand that, well, I simply have to go paint today. And when I do this with enough repetition, and I practice, and then go practice more, eventually we just break down those barriers, and I just make the art because the repetition. 10,000 hours, more hours. But right now I got to go paint. Like after this, I should go paint. And eventually style will show up naturally. I don't think an artist, for me, the style just shows up naturally. When I try to control it, I'm not really in flow state anymore. I'm trying to control the style. My authentic voice shows up naturally when my subject is in charge. That's what, and some of the work I was doing in the very beginning was amazing. It was just like, I didn't like, but I look back on that, I'm like, pfft. So the more I learn about painting, the harder it gets. That's been said before, but it's true. It's like, the more artists I see, the more influence I get. That's what messes with my authenticity a little bit. But here we are. We learn in school. We learn these things. So we're always like pulling from inspiration from all things and learning from people. But I do try to imagine what it would be like if I never saw any paintings and someone gave me paint. What would happen? That'd be interesting. That's a good question. That's a really good one. These competitions, realizing right off the bat that I am not in competition with these other artists. I am. And I think a lot of artists at these things, they don't really own it. They don't really like to say like, I'm in they don't get competitive with it, they say. Deep down I know they're all just, they are. Lately, I tried to be that way too and humble and stuff, but like, look, I got a family to feed. If I don't do good at the competition, I mean, usually when you get a best in show, you sell that painting. That's okay. That's a painting I sell. Like that's a little breathing room here for me. So it's high stress being an artist. And when you go to a competition, everyone wants to do good. You want to be, recognized amongst your peers. And when I come into a competition, I have to realize, however, that I am only in competition with myself. And it's very easy to get heady, super judgmental on yourself, and I still do it all the time. So usually when I do best at these plein air events, it's because I struggled, and then I turned the painting sideways. I scraped it down, and I worked on the abstract design. And for me, it's the best way to work, because now there's a bunch of color on that canvas in an abstract way, and I'm just, so, like every time I do my best work is on an abstract design, scraped down canvas that I messed up on, and now made something amazing on certain areas are showing through. That interests me most. Like, what's up with that? My paintings there was a lot of hard edges, a lot of very tight paintings. I didn't understand edge work, and my color gets better. My color's always getting better, but I'm looking at some of the work I did before, and I like the work I was doing before. I like it, but I'm understanding now more about design and color, but design and the way we see. So when we see, we're looking at something, and I'm going to explain why this is kind of a dangerous thing in a second, but so when I'm seeing a focal point, the way I see something, I'm focusing in on this ladder over here. The ladder's in focus, everything else blurs out. Now my job as a painter is to just show something, tell a story with it, put high centrality of focus on the subject. But I see amazing painters not doing that. And I see amazing painters painting their way. So, but for me, I love narrative. I love telling a little story with it. slightly, just a little something that keeps it like, oh. And so you can look at it forever that way. That's always the goal. Just painting plein air, just to paint plein air. I feel like the style is, it's kind of an expectation now. How do you paint plein air? Is plein air a style, or is it just painting out in open air? What is it? It's painting in open air. If we think plein air and we think of a certain style, we're wrong, period. When we think plein air, we need to just think painting in open air, and that can mean taking a painting to make something that looks photorealist if we want to, because we just go back 20 times on location and paint that thing. I'm taking huge paintings on location. The photorealism doesn't interest me at all. But I have a high amount of respect for it. But it just, to me, that looks painful. And I just think plein air is just a word. Direct observation is what it's all about. So I paint in the studio often. Wherever possible, I'm painting from life in the studio. And I'm actually not like opposed at all to painting from photographs. I love painting from photographs on a rainy day in my studio and making it work. However, it feels kind of very unauthentic if I'm painting from a photograph, because what I'm going to get is a painting of a photograph, period. But with enough knowledge, painting in plein air one day, like my dad, for example, I would watch him paint in the studio. He would paint amazing paintings because he had so much knowledge of painting in plein air. And so the idea is you should develop the knowledge in plein air, have those brush hours out on location, seeing how light works and just the principles of light. You can paint from any photo and understand, okay, I got to beef this up, this up, this up. And that's the goal. And that's what I'm always trying to do. So I understand that. And just recently, I've really been like doing better from painting from photos, because I'm like, oh, this is actually what that light would be doing. And if so understanding, not just painting the light in the photograph, because photos are, that lens can never catch reality the way it works. When I get driven and want to do a good painting, nothing else matters. It's just all about doing that work, or there's that commission, or I see that subject I need, and things like organization, other commitments, all this stuff just stops, and it's all about that painting. And when people ask, I wish I had that kind of talent, and you're so talented, I just kind of get offended. I just recommend that no one calls someone talented, because it is a sacrifice. It's a lot of work, a lot of pain tolerance, and all of a sudden you get a beautiful painting. And that beautiful painting sits there in the studio, and you look at that thing on the wall, and you put it on Facebook, Instagram, you put it on your website, it's still there, it's your favorite painting. You're like, am I the only one who sees this? This is my favorite work. And why do I still have it? Still, a couple years goes by, the painting's still there, and you're like, you start to second guess yourself. You start to rely on other people's validation for your work. So that's the difficult part. I think a lot of us do that, and I got a lot of respect for artists that just don't care. But if it's good, the painting will usually sell. Not always, though. So we can't judge our work on what people are buying, what people are selling. And probably I'm just more selfish in a way. So that's why I work on myself. I validate my work to other people sometimes, I start to drift into that. And that's just selfish thinking. But you gotta do good work to sell it. Sometimes I just want to just let paint fly on that canvas, so I do. I paint work that's just for me sometimes, and where am I going with this? What sets me apart? Nothing. Nothing sets me apart. We're all the same. We're all in that same like frequency, everyone up. And what sets me apart is lately I realized that like it's selfish thinking that's gonna like be my demise in the end. So I'm up doing things in the morning that's has nothing to do with art. I'm training very early in the morning when I'm most aligned with my purpose at 3:40 a.m. Between 3:40 a.m. and 4 o'clock in the mornings when you're most aligned with your purpose. This is what I believe. At first I thought that was a bunch of mumbo jumbo, but I became very successful as an online fitness coach, and I was like, wow. So what sets me apart from most artists is my ability to like work on like it's just this. It's like my fitness and this having this life and being an artist. Being this warrior who knows how to just be a warrior and then be a gentle, kind artist who loves flowers. I just go into a store and appreciate every flower and like the poetry, all this beautiful things in life. That it's just warrior, artist. Welcome. My name is Ryan Jensen. Today, we're going to be painting a loose, painterly figure on the beach. Why is painting a figure so difficult? It's something we all want to know how to do. Painting a figure is difficult because we're trying to paint the figure. What we need to do is stop looking at it as a figure, merely think of it as shapes, colors, and values. That's what today's video is going to be all about. So one of the very most important things I'm going to keep discussing throughout this whole video is passion, brushwork, energy, heart. We need to have heart in our paintings. It's very important to understand all the principles of painting, learn from the masters. But your voice as an artist, one of the most important things you can ever do. To find that voice is the difficult part. Now, today we're going to be talking about color, design, composition, and all the other little specifics on edge work. Remember this, the second we start getting scared, the second we start getting fearful, understand it. Understand that that's the negative, okay? We're thinking positive. We need to do certain things to stay positive during our painting. We're listening to music, we're dancing. Right when we understand that that negative energy is coming in and infecting our space, oh, that's negative energy. What we need to do is dance. Have a good time. Do some push-ups, do some jumping jacks, jump off the wall, go chase a dinosaur, I don't care. But don't paint with the negative energy because that's going to show directly through to everyone who looks at your art. You find out what you like, what speaks to you, and you paint to figure out why. I love this boat. I love this figure. I love the way this light is hitting these dumpsters in the back of this alley. Why? Then we paint.